I laughed when he said he could get me pregnant just by thinking about me. Now my belly is growing. If I had known that the most life-altering moment of my existence would come immediately after a diplomatic wine-tasting event involving fermented starlight sap and a being who looked like a supermodel elf with a PhD in smugness, I might have passed on the second glass. Your species places too much emphasis on physical contact, Elor said. His voice as smooth as warm quantum silk and twice as slippery. He stood beside me on the observation deck of the ever-curious, watching the chaotic orbital dance of Taloris III's twin moons. For Talorians, conception is a matter of thought, resonance, intention. I choked on my drink. You're telling me you can get someone pregnant just by thinking at them? He nodded, very seriously. Yes, I snorted. Well, then I'd be pregnant with at least 3 different baristas and 1 particularly intense customs agent. Elor tilted his head. You jest, but your neural aura has been uniquely receptive? When you laughed just now, it triggered I raised a hand. Okay, hold it. First of all, neural aura sounds like a pickup line from someone who reads too many pseudo-spiritual quantum dating guides. Second, I laughed because your ears wiggle when you talk. And third, if I am pregnant, I demand child support in the form of a lifetime supply of anti-nausea nanobots and a bigger bed. He smiled like I'd just agreed to marry him. Later that night, lying in my bunk with a slight buzz and an unfortunately clear memory of our conversation, I dismissed the whole thing. Elor was part of the Talorian diplomatic mission, mysterious, beautiful, and deeply prone to metaphysical rambling. There was no way a thought got me pregnant. That would mean the biology lectures I sat through in university were lies, and while that wouldn't shock me, it would definitely annoy Dr. Saito, who once threatened to throw a model uterus at anyone who suggested psionic fertilization. Still, I couldn't shake the image of Elor's calm, unreadable expression, or the way my skin had prickled like a force field on low charge when he looked at me. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd swallowed a star. Not in the romantic, poetic way, more like indigestion caused by illegal energy particles. My stomach made a sound like an angry modem. My teeth ached. My fingernails had developed a faint bioluminescence that pulsed in sync with the ever-curious's warp core. Dr. Hemley, I muttered as I stumbled into medbay, I think I've developed sentient heartburn. Hemley, the ship's AI medic, blinked to life on the nearest display panel. Please describe your symptoms using at least 2 coherent metaphors. I feel like someone installed a microwave in my uterus and forgot to hit defrost. Also, I smell citrus whenever I think about Elor. Is that a red flag? Extremely. Sit on the diagnostic pod. Do not lick anything. 3 scans, a humorless warning about interspecies boundaries, and 1 intrusive thermometer later, Hemley's tone took a turn. Maya, your vitals are. Well, that's never a good sign. That's what they said in every sci-fi horror vid before someone exploded. Specifically, Hemley continued, ignoring me as usual, your hormone levels are suggestive of early gestation. However, the hormonal structure is unlike any human pregnancy I've recorded. Your progesterone is interlaced with a quantum echo. Also, your DNA is updating. Updating? I repeated, feeling my last shred of calm do a swan dive into panic. What am I, a phone app? It appears your genetic structure is undergoing phased integration with non-terrestrial code. I am an app, I whispered. I'm being hot-fixed into a new species. Naturally, I asked Hemley to run the tests again. Then I bribed Ensign Lila with 3 tins of Earth-grade peanut butter to smuggle a second opinion from the ship's unofficial medic, a 2-headed lizard named Vroot, who only accepted payment in music and gossip. Vroot agreed with Hemley. Maya full of spark seed, Vroot sang cheerfully. Alien think at you. Very efficient mating. No sweating. I locked myself in my quarters for 2 hours and composed a strongly worded message to Elor. Then I deleted it, rewrote it, and deleted it again. Then I threw my pillow across the room and yelled at the wall for approximately 15 minutes before ordering 3 servings of chocolate algae mousse and binge-watching old Earth comedies. When I finally summoned the nerve to message Elor, he responded instantly. Elor, you feel it now, the shaping. Do not be afraid. Me, I'm not afraid, I'm furious. I didn't consent to this. You can't just psychically sneeze a baby into someone's uterus. It was not accidental, we resonated. Your laughter was the signal. So I'm supposed to never laugh again around Talorians? Should I take a vow of grumpiness? The resonance is rare, sacred. I have never experienced it before. Me. Well, congratulations, you knocked me up with a thought and called it sacred. Do I get a prize? He didn't answer. Probably off meditating in a tree made of sentient moss or whatever it is Tellurians do in their spare time. My abdomen was beginning to feel weird. Not big, not painful, just aware. Like there was something inside me humming in low frequencies. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, except it was from the inside out. To distract myself, I went to the ship's rec lounge and beat 3 engineers at zero-gravity table tennis. One of them accused me of using mind powers, and I laughed too hard, too loud, and stopped midway because my belly pulsed like it was agreeing with me. Back in my room, my reflection in the mirror didn't look that different. Except my eyes had a faint shimmer now, and my ears were they a tiny bit pointier? I touched them and winced. Okay, I whispered, staring at myself. This is fine. Everything's fine. I just have a thought baby from an alien who thinks flirting means rewriting my genetic code. No big deal. Then the lights flickered. My toothbrush floated off the sink and hovered in midair. I screamed. The toothbrush screamed back. It turns out, when your toothbrush starts screaming at you in 6 different pitches and one of them is a quote from your high school ex, you're officially past the point of casual denial. Okay, I told the toothbrush, holding it at arm's length with a salad tongue. Either you're haunted, or I'm having a full-blown telekinetic meltdown. Either way, you're going in the drawer. The toothbrush hummed indignantly, but didn't resist. I slammed the drawer shut and taped it closed with a warning label. Do not open unless prepared for existential crisis and minty fresh breath. My ears still tingled. They weren't longer, not exactly, but they were sensitive now. Like they were tuning into frequencies no human ears were ever supposed to hear. I could catch whispers through walls, song fragments from passing drones, and once the sound of Commander Rise mumbling his grocery list in the next corridor. 3 cans of Syntha chili, 1 toothpaste. Wait, why does the toothpaste have feelings? Hemley ordered another full scan and decided I needed rest and emotional recalibration. What am I? A malfunctioning vending machine? I asked. You are currently operating outside standard biological protocol, Hemley replied. Also, your neural synapses are cross-communicating with the ship's power grid. Please stop thinking about bananas. You just shut off gravity in the gymnasium. Lila stopped by my quarters with an empathy brownie, allegedly infused with calming nanobots and a speculative gaze. So, she said, handing me the warm, slightly vibrating pastry, is it true you're carrying the first ever psychic alien baby? I don't know, I muttered. I mean, yes, probably, but it also might be an elaborate prank, and I'll wake up with a camera crew yelling intergalactic gotcha! Do you want it? Lila, I barely want my own laundry responsibilities. I took a bite of the brownie and instantly felt like my thoughts were wrapped in a weighted blanket made of jazz. But the question stuck with me. Wanting it. I hadn't thought that far. I'd been too busy floating toothbrushes and learning that my dreams were now apparently directed by David Lynch's weirder cousin. That night, I dreamed of stars falling like snow and a voice. Not Elor's, but younger, playful, laughing from inside me. Hi, Mom, it said and giggled. Do you know any jokes? I woke up with tears in my eyes and peanut butter stuck to my cheek. At some point, I must have sleep teleported half the snack drawer into my bed. Fine, I said aloud to no one. I'll tell you a joke. Why did the astronaut break up with the alien? Silence, because he needed space. My belly gave a faint, approving flutter. Great, I muttered. I'm raising a comedy critic. Things escalated after that. By things, I mean the entire ship's navigation AI started singing lullabies when I walked past. The hydroponics bay began sprouting flowers that bent toward my shadow, and I accidentally made the espresso machine create a beverage called Hope of the First Dawn that tasted like cinnamon and therapy. Commander Rise called me into his office, looking approximately 3% more terrified than usual. Maya, he said, with the brittle calm of someone addressing a nuclear device with mood swings, I am obligated to remind you that forming unintended psychic bonds with alien envoys is a violation of subsection 12F of the Intergalactic Cooperation Code. Subsection 12F also forbids using diplomatic water globes for stress juggling, and someone was doing that yesterday, I replied sweetly. I'm not accusing. I'm requesting containment. Containment? I raised an eyebrow. Do you want me to wear a tinfoil hat? Avoid jokes? Stop feeling things? Because I can stop eating spicy food. But that's where I draw the line. Reese sighed and rubbed his temples. Just don't leave the ship without supervision. So naturally, I left the ship that afternoon. Elor's temple shimmered in the high jungle of Teloris III, all curving lines and sentient moss that whispered secrets if you stepped too hard. I walked up to him with a belly that was barely rounded but humming like a meditation bowl. You could have warned me, I said. I did. Not well. You said resonance. Not hey, you might have a space baby and a minor reality warping crisis by next Thursday. He regarded me calmly, his ears twitching slightly. Words are often inadequate. What you carry is not a burden, it is a beginning. Oh, great, you're quoting mystical parenting scrolls now. What's next, birthing crystals? He held up a smooth orb that pulsed with light. No, I said, backing away. Nope, not holding anything that glows unless it also plays music or dispenses ice cream. Elor didn't press. Instead, he walked with me through the trees, speaking. The child you carry is already conscious. It perceives emotion as structure. Your humor shapes its growth. So, if I told a really bad pun, it might grow an extra toe? Possibly a tentacle or a tail, but that depends on the pun. We reached a pool of bioluminescent water. I stared at my reflection. The glow in my eyes was brighter. My posture had shifted, more fluid. I didn't look alien yet, but I didn't look like the Maya from Earth either. I didn't ask for this, I said. No, but you laughed. You opened. That doesn't make this okay. Elor was silent. He nodded. He didn't argue. That was strangely worse than if he had. Back on the ship, I found that my quarters now smelled faintly of ozone and sugar. The toothbrush had migrated to the bookshelf and was whispering motivational quotes. I let it. Then I lay in bed, one hand on my stomach. I don't know what I'm doing, I whispered. A ripple of warmth bloomed under my palm. Then a voice in my head, unmistakably young and amused. Neither do I, but we're hilarious. And somehow, that was the most reassuring thing I'd heard all day. Hemley installed an emotional stability lamp in my quarters. It was supposed to radiate calming frequencies based on the emotional signature of ancient Martian sandworms or something. In practice, it hummed like a content refrigerator and occasionally projected soothing holograms of moss. I named it Kevin. Kevin did not help when the food synthesizer started printing out nutritional cubes shaped like Elor's ears. Coincidence, Hemley said flatly, running yet another scan. Data anomaly. You probably triggered a subconscious design preference. I never asked for a protein snack that looks like it's judging me, I snapped, biting into one. It was high in calcium and emotional damage. The pregnancy, if I could still call it that, was progressing. Not in the traditional way. My stomach wasn't swelling like a normal human belly, but instead shimmered slightly, like heat waves rising off a sidewalk. Sometimes it pulsed to the rhythm of music I hadn't yet heard. Other times, it broadcast trivia facts into my thoughts. Did you know Telorian honey contains micro-nanites that can reprogram your taste buds? My dreams were now fully immersive. In one, I wandered through a floating library staffed by owls wearing lab coats. In another, I argued with a cosmic jellyfish about naming conventions. The baby, Neb, I decided on Neb, was in all of them. Sometimes as a light, sometimes as a snarky voice, sometimes as a very tiny stand-up comedian performing exclusively in my subconscious. How do Telorians flirt? Neb had asked in the dream, very carefully and with legal disclaimers. Waking up had become disorienting. I was beginning to feel more at home in dreams than in the ever-curious. Elor continued to send messages, not through official channels. He preferred the dream route, which was both poetic and completely unhelpful when I wanted to throw a mug at him. He kept asking how Neb was doing, which was rich coming from the guy who hadn't even bought me lunch before rearranging my molecular structure. You do realize this is like skipping past small talk and right into cosmic parenthood, I told his latest visiongram. There was no first date, not even a coffee. You offered me fermented sap and a joke, he replied, unbothered. On my planet, that is intimacy. Well, on my planet, that's Tuesday. I tried to keep it together. I really did, but the walls were starting to react to my mood swings. When I got annoyed, the lighting flickered. When I was sad, the room played minor chords. Once, during a hormonal spike, The floor glowed pink and the door wouldn't open until I recited a haiku about acceptance. Commander Rees called another meeting. "You are currently in violation of at least 7 new protocols," he said, staring at the glowing folder in his hands like it might explode. "Only 7? I'm slipped. Your offspring has been flagged as a Class 4 anomalous entity." Sounds like he's already ahead of his class. Proud mom moment. "We have received a request from the Intergalactic Oversight Committee. They want to evaluate you and the being." "You mean Neb, not the being." "Also, evaluation sounds a lot like poking with sharp instruments and taking notes. We'll try to avoid poking." How reassuring. I didn't have a choice, not really. They scheduled the evaluation for the following week. In the meantime, I tried to prepare. That meant meditating, which mostly involved falling asleep next to Kevin, practicing psychic shielding, which mostly involved accidentally levitating furniture, and talking to Neb, which turned out to be surprisingly easy. "Hi," I thought. "Hi," came the response, bubbling with enthusiasm. "How are you even forming sentences? You're not born yet. You think too loudly. It's contagious." "Is this what parenting will be like?" "Yep. You're already doing great. You haven't seen me try to cook." We talked daily. Sometimes it was just jokes. Sometimes Neb asked questions that made my neurons itch. "What is fear made of?" they asked once. "Usually bad experiences and a sprinkle of uncertainty." "What is love made of?" "Worse. Hope." The day before the evaluation, I walked to the viewing deck. Stars swirled outside like they knew something I didn't. Maybe they did. Maybe they always had. "I don't want to be a science experiment," I said aloud. "You aren't?" came Neb's voice. "You sure? I float objects. I talk to unborn entities. My toaster's afraid of me." "That's not because of me. That's because you made it toast 12 slices at once." "Still your fault. Hormonal cravings." There was a pause. "Then what if they try to separate us?" "They won't. They'll try. They'll fail." I didn't say it with bravado. I just knew. Deep down, woven into the glittering uncertainty of my altered DNA and glowing fingertips, there was something fierce. The next morning, the Oversight Committee arrived. They wore sterile white suits and looked like they'd never laughed at anything in their lives. One of them introduced herself as Director Velm. She was so still, I suspected she might be part statue. "Please lie down," she said. "Can I at least pick the music?" "No." They began the scan. My head swam with neural echoes and flickers of light. Neb's presence curled tighter, coiling protectively, sending a single thought through the chaos. "Don't worry, Mom. I've got this." Something pulsed outward. The scanner sparked. One of the instruments screamed and exploded into a puff of glitter. Velm's eyebrow twitched. "Maya," she said in a voice that had never known joy, "you and your child may pose a diplomatic variable." "Yeah," I said, sitting up. "We're pretty good at that." The lights overhead flickered pink, then blue, then a color that probably didn't exist 5 minutes ago. Neb giggled inside my head. "I think we just invented a new shade," I whispered. "And a new problem," Velm replied. She wasn't wrong. The next morning I found an official notice floating outside my door. Not taped, not stuck. Literally hovering in the air, gently spinning like it had opinions about gravity. "Notice, you are hereby summoned to attend a comprehensive biopsychic review at 900 hours. Please bring any relevant medical data, a sense of cooperative spirit, and a snack if you are prone to low blood sugar or existential dread." I appreciated the last part. At least bureaucracy had finally started acknowledging the emotional costs of paperwork. Neb, naturally, had thoughts. "Are they going to poke you again? If so, I can vibrate your molecules until their equipment melts." "Tempting," I muttered, brushing my teeth with the now surprisingly polite toothbrush. "But we're going for diplomacy today. Less chaos, more charm." "You always say that before something explodes." I arrived at the committee chamber with a protein bar in one hand and a diplomatic smile on my face. Commander Rees was already there, standing in full uniform with that expression he reserved for moments of deep professional regret. Director Velm was flanked by 3 analysts in gray jumpsuits who looked like they were personally offended by the existence of fun. A floating AI orb hovered beside them, blinking slowly like it was trying not to be impressed by me. "We'll begin with a cognitive emotional resonance test," Velm said. "You will focus on a single core memory. Your offspring's psychic signature will be monitored for responses." I have to think real hard about something personal while you watch? Weirdly familiar. Is this just space therapy? Begin, Velm replied. I closed my eyes and thought of the day I first arrived on Evercurious, fresh out of xenolinguistics training, wearing mismatched socks, accidentally introducing myself to a Zarn diplomat by sneezing on their ceremonial antenna. Neb pulsed immediately with laughter. Tell them about the juice box incident, they said. No, I whispered. That story dies with me. The orb flashed. Subject's neural patterns exhibit unusually high humor resonance co-linkage. Offspring appears to absorb emotional stimuli at full spectrum. We've suspected this, Velm said. Laughter-based imprinting is unheard of in cross-species gestation. Great, I said. My parenting legacy is going to be jokes and sarcasm. I'm basically raising a tiny stand-up philosopher. Your humor modulates their psychic growth, one analyst said. We've never seen anything like it. Glad to be unique, I replied. Do I get a trophy or just more anxiety? The tests continued. I was asked to identify abstract shapes that reminded me of my feelings. I picked a triangle and called it mild panic. Neb renamed it pointy joy. The AI orb blinked so fast it had to reboot. After 3 hours of tests, I was released back into the general ship population with the comforting knowledge that I might be a threat to galactic stability and also a walking emotional amplifier. I think they like us, I told Neb. They definitely don't. Close enough. That evening, I was summoned to the observation lounge for a casual diplomatic check-in. This turned out to be a fancy way of saying, Elor wants to talk while pretending this isn't awkward. He stood near the window watching the stars, as if waiting for them to wink back. I'm told Neb responded well to the tests, he said. They nearly turned the AI into an interpretive dancer, so yes. You are adapting quickly. I'm sleep-talking in 12 languages and dreaming of sentient waffles, Elor. This is not adaptation, this is creative survival. He turned, face unreadable. Do you resent me? Do I what? For what you carry. I stared at him, then laughed. No. I resent the timing. I resent the lack of briefing. I resent that I now cry at cereal commercials. But Neb, they're kind of the best thing I didn't ask for. Elor relaxed slightly. You are stronger than I expected. You should have met me during finals week. We sat in silence. The stars moved slowly. Neb hummed in the background of my mind, content. Then a sharp tone rang out across the ship. Attention, unauthorized vessel approaching, shields engaging. Elor and I stood at the same time. This isn't part of the check-in, right? No, he said. Stay behind me. I didn't. I followed him straight to the bridge. The ship on screen was jagged and dark, like a thorn woven from metal and malice. No identifying signals. Just a slow crawl toward our position. Pirates? I asked. Not quite, Elor said. These are collectors. Commander Rice swore under his breath. They harvest anomalies, rare biology, experimental tech, and apparently hybrid pregnancies. I knew this week was going too well. They'll scan for psychic resonance. They're not subtle. We'll have to mask you. I'm carrying a giggling light bulb that reshapes reality when I eat nachos. How exactly do you mask that? We use a decoy field, synthetic psychic signature. Like a fake baby? Exactly. Do not tell Neb that. We heard everything, Neb said, and we demand royalties if our decoy gets its own merchandise. The bridge shimmered as the field activated. I felt it press down like static fog, trying to dull the glow inside me. Neb squirmed. This is itchy, they complained. Can we fight them instead? No fighting, I muttered. This is not the time to debut your laser beam phase. Yet. The collectors hailed us. Their captain appeared on screen. Skeletal face, one eye glowing with artificial light, the voice like a blender trying to do calculus. We detect anomaly. Surrender or be breached. Hello, I said, stepping forward. Sorry, no anomalies here. Just a mildly pregnant linguist and her very dramatic toothbrush. They paused. You are the anomaly. Velm stepped in. She is under protective accord. Any aggression will violate 8 galactic treaties. The captain hissed. We will return. Cool, I said. Bring snacks next time. The transmission cut. The ship turned, drifting off like an insult left unfinished. Silence. Then Neb said, I could have taken them. I know, I said, but I don't want you using your powers before you're technically born. Rules. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how long until the collectors came back. How long until I wasn't safe? Until Neb wasn't safe. Then the ceiling changed. It shimmered, unfolded. A sky of stars spread above me. Real, not simulation. Neb said softly, "We'll protect you too." And for the first time since this all started, I believed it. 3 days after the collector ship vanished into deep space, the ever-curious finally stopped sounding like a robot with anxiety issues. The emergency klaxons faded. The psychic shielding relaxed. Kevin, my emotional lamp, stopped blinking Morse code that translated roughly to, "Please don't explode." In the mess hall, I stared at my breakfast. Hover toast, scrambled algae, and something Hemley insisted was safe to eat but smelled like ambition. Neb whispered inside my mind, "Today's the day, isn't it?" "You say that every day," I replied, poking the toast to make sure it wasn't alive. "No, I mean it this time. Something's gonna shift. I feel buzzy." That could just be space gas. Or destiny. You're young. You don't know the difference yet. I didn't feel ready. Then again, I hadn't felt ready the day Neb whispered their first joke in my mind. Or the day I accidentally telekinetically peeled a fruit bowl. Or the day I almost burned a hole in my uniform laughing too hard at Elor's attempt at a knock-knock joke. He didn't understand the concept of knocking. Still, I went to medbay for another routine check. Hemley scanned me, frowned, tilted his holographic head, and said, "You appear to be entering pre-transitional phase," which is to say, I'm in labor, in a very non-linear, dimensionally influenced sense. "Yes." "Great," I muttered. "So what, I blinked twice and suddenly the baby's already finished college?" "Unlikely, but your child has requested to choose their own birth process." "They what?" Hemley tapped his display. "They've sent 3 proposals. One of them involves music. The other 2 involve soft lighting and a monologue." I knew letting them watch theater vids was a mistake. Neb's voice came in. "I've decided. It's going to be musical." "No," I said immediately. "Yes," they replied, too pleased with themselves. "No singing during labor." "I'll compromise. Humming. Very gentle humming." Hemley cleared his throat, which was impressive considering he didn't have one. "We should begin containment measures now." "Containment?" I asked. "There is a statistically significant chance your offspring may create a spatial ripple upon arrival. Also, your DNA is attempting to rewrite the laws of biology again. We don't want any more singing fruit." That was one time. You gave the apple sentience, and it told me I'd make a good mom. Reese, Velm, Elor, and every medic with a degree in metaphysics stood outside the chamber as the process began. It didn't feel like pain. It felt like acceleration, like falling forward into something huge and inevitable and laced with cosmic glitter. Neb's presence expanded inside me, not heavy but wide, like a galaxy curling outward from a single spark. Then they said, "Here I go," and the lights exploded in color. I don't remember screaming. I remember laughing. The chamber filled with sound, music, humming, laughter, the gentle rattle of atoms shifting to make room. The walls flickered. The floor vibrated. The ship's AI announced, "Initiating protocol, holy glowing, what is that?" and shut itself down, and then Neb was there. Not screaming, not crying, laughing, glowing softly, a radiant shape hovering in the air before settling gently into my arms. A body, yes, but light threaded through it like living stardust. Their eyes blinked open, large, knowing, slightly mischievous. "Hi," they said aloud, already mastering vocal cords. Everyone stared. I stared. "You're small," I said. "You're huge." Weird how that works. The days that followed were chaos, but the kind of chaos with snacks and snuggles. Velm documented everything. Ruz tried to write a report and gave up halfway through when Neb rewrote his conclusion to include 3 puns and a drawing of a banana with legs. The Intergalactic Oversight Committee officially classified Neb as a living bridge between species, which sounded noble and extremely marketable. Merchandising offers arrived within hours. Neb declined. "I'm not a brand," they told the representative from Galactic AdNet. "Also, your logo needs work." Elor visited often, never imposing. We talked more, but without pressure. He offered guidance, but never control. We started walking together in the evenings. Sometimes Neb joined us. Sometimes they wandered off to psychically interview passing asteroids or teach the toaster about comedy. One night, as we watched the twin moons of Taloris 3 blink like sleepy eyes, I asked Elor, "Did you know this would happen?" "No," he said, "but I hoped. When you laughed that night, I felt a shift in the universe. I thought, if this is possible, anything is." I still don't know what I'm doing. No parent does. I threatened the scan technician today because she tried to poke Neb with a psi probe. She deserved it. Yeah, I said, smiling. She did. Neb ran up the corridor toward us, barefoot, glowing slightly, carrying a levitating book and a sandwich made of possibly metaphysical ingredients. I taught the door to tell knock-knock jokes, they yelled. That's good, I said. It now only opens if you say who's there, they added. Wince. We'll have to fix that. Or live with it, I shrugged. We did fix it. Mostly. The door still tells one joke a day, but only if you're polite. Neb says it's for cultural enrichment. Weeks passed, then months, and the ship changed. Not just the AI, not just the crew, everything. We laughed more, we argued more creatively, people started telling jokes at staff meetings. Rise smiled once, Hemley installed a humor plugin, Velm wrote a haiku, and me, I stopped waiting for the old version of myself to come back. I wasn't her anymore. I was the person who had laughed at an alien, gotten cosmically knocked up, battled bureaucrats, confused pirates, and given birth to a being who once made a wormhole giggle. I was a parent, a bridge, a mess, but mine. And every night, when Neb curled up beside me and whispered their strange dreams, I knew I wouldn't trade this for anything. Not even for a quiet life with non-sentient appliances. Hey Mom, they said one night, already half asleep. Want to hear a joke? Always. What do you get when you mix a human, an alien, and a very confused toothbrush? What? Me. I laughed until the lights blinked twice in appreciation. The end bush. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my channel and like it for more videos.